Hello students, I'm Poonam Sharma. Welcome you all another session of this chapter number 1 with Stuti Academy. In previous class, I have discussed few questions with you and this chapter is complete. So I've discussed few very important questions related to this chapter in previous class and I hope you have understood those questions. And if you have any doubt, you can ask in today's class also. So in today's class, I'll discuss few more questions with you. So now, question number 6, because we have already discussed 5 questions in previous class, and I'll discuss question number 6 today. First, let me know how many of you have revised this chapter. I told you earlier also, whatever I'm teaching you, just revise it once so that it's easy for you to understand the concept. Okay, so let's begin with this question. Question is, give the temperature at which water exists in 2 different phases or states. It means you have to write those temperature at which water exists in different phases or states. So you have to mention that temperature. So answer is, at 0 degrees Celsius, water can be solid or in liquid state, and at 100 degrees Celsius, water can be liquid or in gaseous state. So it's a 1 mark question. You only need to write the temperature. Here, no need to explain. Just write down the temperature, at what temperature water exists in different phases. So at 0 degree, water can exist in solid state or in liquid state also. And at 100 degree Celsius, water can be in liquid or in gaseous state. It means in both the states, it can exist at 100 degrees Celsius, and in solid and liquid, it exists at 0 degree Celsius also. So this answer you need to write if the question comes like this. Now the next question is, liquids and gases can be compressed, but it's difficult to compress solids. Why? Now children, if you remember in previous class, similar type of question was there in which they were asking about the compressibility factor between gases and solids. So here you need to compare all the states in one answer only. So the question is, liquids and gases can be compressed, but it is difficult to compress solids. Why? As I told you, although liquids cannot compress too much, they are not that much compressible as compared to gases. So what is the reason behind it? But in solids, so we cannot compress. And if you remember, I discussed one more question with you, like we can compress sponges. Sponge is a solid, but still we can compress it. Why? I hope you remember that answer. If any one of you know this answer, please write in the chat box. So if you remember, I told you about this solid state. Yes, although sponge is a solid, but due to the presence of pores in it, it can easily compress. Because when we compress it, air comes out. So in this question, you have to mention why liquid and gases can be compressed, but solids cannot be. And same reason is there. See, in liquids and gases, if you remember the arrangement of particles in liquid and gaseous state, the molecules of the particles are quite far away. They were having some spaces between them. If you remember, they were they are having some spaces between them. Due to this intermolecular space. Intermolecular means the space which is present between the molecules. Yes. So due to this intermolecular spaces, more intermolecular spaces in liquids and gases, we can apply pressure externally on them. And then as a result, they can be compressed due to the spaces present between them. But if we compare it with the solids, in solids, they are tightly packed. I told you this answer in previous class also. So, in solids, the intermolecular spaces are negligible. And due to this less intermolecular or no intermolecular spaces, we cannot compress them. It's very difficult for us to compress it. So I hope this question is clear to you. Okay, so in this, you have to compare the intermolecular spaces or the arrangement of particles which results in the spaces between the molecules. You need to write answer like this. I hope this question is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. And children, whatever I'm discussing with you, so please make sure that you'll revise those questions and answers thoroughly so that your concepts will be more clear to you. If you'll not revise, then you'll not understand anything. And whatever doubts you have, I'll take your doubts in the next class. Don't worry about it. But you have to revise it. Okay. Now let's move on to question number 8. Here one condition is given. And what's that condition? Here it is. A balloon when kept in sun burst after some time. Why? This balloon, they are talking about inflated balloon. That balloon, if you keep inflated balloon, it means it has some air into it. If you kept that inflated balloon in air, or where the temperature is quite high, so in presence of sunlight, then after some time that balloon gets burst. And what's the reason behind it? See, if you are keeping that balloon which has air into it, if you will keep that balloon in the presence of sunlight, so due to the heat of the sun, the air which is present inside the balloon, it gets heated. And do you remember what will happen if the temperature increases? If we are providing heat to any state, then what will be the result? Any one of you please tell me. If we provide heat, then how it affects that particular state, or how it affects the molecules which are present in that particular state of matter. Yes, so it means if you are providing heat, here we are keeping balloon in the sunlight, and when you provide heat, so due to the heat of the sun, the molecules which are present in the gases, they also get heated and they start gaining which energy? Yes, the energy is kinetic energy. They start gaining kinetic energy, and this is, yes, they start gaining kinetic energy, and as a result of it, the molecules starts vibrating. And when these molecules start vibrating, they need some space to move, and they start exerting force on the wall of the balloon, which results in the expansion of gases and the balloon burst. I hope this answer is clear to you. I'll repeat one more time. See, when you take inflated balloon and kept in sun for a certain period of time, so due to the heat of the sun, the molecules which are present in the gas, which is filled in the balloon, it gets heated, and as a result, the molecule starts gaining kinetic energy. And when they gain this kinetic energy, they start vibrating. So it means when they show this vibration, they move. They start moving randomly. So remember that movement. What do we call that movement? When molecules are moving randomly, we call that movement a Brownian movement. So it means when they start vibrating, they start exerting pressure on the wall of the balloon, and the balloon gets burst. So this answer you need to write if the question comes like this. Okay, or maybe they'll in examiner can ask this question like this, like if you take an inflated balloon and heat it, then it gets burst. Suggest the reason behind it. Then in that question also you need to write answer in this manner only. Now question number 9. Why do people perspire a lot on a hot, humid day? See, and the answer for this is, during hot days, what will happen? Due to the heat, our body starts sweating due to the process of evaporation. And evaporation, if you remember, it has a cooling effect. Yes, cooling mechanism here is written, cooling effect or cooling mechanism. So this cooling effect. So when we perspire on a hot, humid day, we sweat. That sweat comes out from our body. And have you ever feel that when you are sweating, your body starts feeling cool? You feel very comfortable when you sweat a lot during hot conditions or during hot, humid days. So this is due to the process of evaporation. This question is similar to that question. Why do people sprinkle water on a roof or on a ground? So it resembles to that question. Now just see the answer, the concept of giving answer is same, but the way of asking question is different. So questions can be asked in exam in different ways by taking any of the example. Earlier, they have taken example of why do people sprinkle water on the ground or on the roof. So here, why do people perspire a lot on a hot, humid day? And the reason is due to evaporation. Okay, now when this evaporation process takes place, it gives a cooling effect. But the air cannot hold that much of water, not hot, humid day, and therefore the sweat or perspiration is seen. So we can see that sweat. So I hope this answer is clear to you. Then let's move on to the next question. Why is it advisable to use pressure cooker at higher altitudes? See, as we move up, the pressure decreases. That's the reason why we always carry oxygen cylinders. Have you ever seen mountaineers when they climb mountain? They always carry oxygen cylinders with them. What's the reason behind it? Because as we are moving up, the pressure reduces. So now the question is, why is it advisable to use pressure cooker at higher altitudes? See, as I told you, when we move up, the atmospheric pressure is low. That's why it's difficult for us to breathe at higher altitudes. Have you ever experienced this? When you go on higher altitudes, when you go to mountain areas, there you'll feel you'll feel uncomfortable in breathing. Just because of this reason only, due to low pressure, will not be able to breathe properly because oxygen is less and the pressure is also very less. So when we move up, the pressure is very low, and as a result of which the water starts boiling at a very faster rate. It is below 100 degrees Celsius, and when it boils at very faster rate, so it evaporates also at a very faster rate, and therefore we need some pressure. We need to create some pressure so that our cooking process will be increased, because we need that pressure to cook our food. So as we are moving up, the atmospheric pressure is low and the water boils at a very fast rate and evaporates at a faster rate. That's why we need to use pressure cooker at higher altitudes, because it creates the pressure inside that container and our food can easily cook at a faster rate. So that's the reason why we need pressure cooker at higher altitudes. Students, in exam, these conceptual based questions can come. So please clear your concepts, and if you face any problem, you can ask without any hesitation, because generally direct questions come very rarely. In exam, direct questions can come very rare. So mostly conceptual based questions can be asked. So these kind of questions, reasoning questions, can be asked in exam. So make sure that your concept should be clear and revise chapter thoroughly. Next question is, how will you show that solids are completely compressible, liquids are slightly, and gases are highly compressible? Now, again, in this question, you'll say, ma'am, in this question, so we have to write same answer which we have written earlier. But here the difference is, how will you show that? In previous question, it was why. So if why comes in question, it means you have to give reasoning. You have to give reason for that compressibility factor. If you remember, I discussed this question number 7. So here you need to give reason for this. But in this question, they are asking, how will you show that? It means you have to write an activity, or by giving an example, you have to prove that these solids are completely compressible, liquids are slightly, and gases are highly compressible. Okay, now how will you show that? Which activity you need to write? And how will you write that answer? Because when you are presenting your answer, and the way of expression of your answer decides your marks. Sometimes you know the answer, but you don't know how to write it, how to frame it, or sometimes you don't understand the question. So there's a difference between these two questions. In this, you have to mention that activity. Which activity you need to write in this? Apart from that, the steps. These are the steps. This I'll explain you. You need to draw diagram as well. It gives good impression on the examiner if you'll present your answer diagrammatically. Just explain it properly, make proper diagrams, and you will definitely get good marks. Now, in this question, there's an activity. First, I'll explain that activity to you. Take a syringe here. The, these are syringes. Take 3 syringes. Here, yes. Now, draw these syringe, but you will draw properly in your exam. And in this syringe, piston is there. You know the piston? The upper part of the syringe is known as the piston. Here also piston and here also. So, we have taken these 3 syringes, A, B and C. Okay. Now remove the piston from each syringe. When you remove the piston, this is piston. This is piston and this is syringe. Okay. Now, when you remove the piston, in a syringe, add some chalk powder. Add some chalk powder. In syringe B, add some water. And in syringe C, no need to add anything. Just leave it like this. So we have taken 3 syringes, A, B and C. In A, when we remove the piston from all the syringes, first remove the piston from all the syringes. Then in syringe A, take some chalk powder. In piston B, take some water. And in piston C, no need to add anything, just leave it like this. Now, what is the next step? When you fill this chalk powder, now try to push the piston in the syringe. Try to push it. This piston, when you remove it like this, now after filling this material, try to push the piston. And when you push the piston, you'll observe that. Okay, you just tell me, what do you think? What will happen if we'll push the piston in the syringes? What do you think what will happen? Any idea? Any guesses? Okay. Yes, now I'll just explain what will happen. See, when you push the piston in this A1, in which chalk powder is there, the piston will not be able to push the piston because chalk powder has already taken up the space in the syringe. So if we try to push it hard, we'll not be able to. Okay. Now in B1, again try to push the piston in B test tube, in B syringe, sorry. Then in this case, we can push the piston, but to a certain extent, not too much, a little bit. But if we see this C1, the piston can easily reaches to the bottom of the syringe, isn't it? So, in A, piston cannot go in the syringe, will not be able to push it. In B1, we can, but to a certain extent. While in C, it goes completely inside the syringe. And when you are pressing the piston, apply some Vaseline on it so that it can easily move. That's why we are using some Vaseline. We are applying some Vaseline on this piston so to increase its movement, so that its movement can be more easy. Okay. So after doing this activity, we can say that in A1, in which chalk powder is present, and this chalk powder is in which state? Yes, tell me. Which state of matter is this? Yes, it's a solid state of matter. And in B1, which state is this? It's liquid one. The third one, the C1, is gaseous state. Yes, absolutely correct. So these are 3 states: solid, liquid, and gases. Now, after performing this activity, we can say that solids cannot be compressed, liquids can be compressed, but to a certain extent, very less compressible. But gases can be compressed, they are highly compressible. I hope this activity or this question is clear to everyone. Okay, now how will you write this answer? First of all, you need to draw this diagram along with labeling. Then you need to write in different steps. Like take 3 syringes of 100 ml and close their nozzles by rubber corks. Remove the piston from all the syringes and keep one syringe as it is. Fill water in the second and pieces of chalk in the third. Here in first one I have taken chalk powder, and B water, and C gases. So you can change it. I mean you can take gases in A or solid in B. That's up to you. Then apply some Vaseline on the pistons and then insert them into the syringes. This will make smooth movement of the pistons. Try to compress the content. Which content they are talking about? Which is present in the syringes. Try to compress the content by pushing the piston in each syringe. You will find that the piston can be pushed more easily in the first syringe or whatever syringe you have taken for gas. The extent of compression is more in gas while it is least in solid. I hope you understood the difference between these two different type of questions. In previous question which I have discussed with you, question number 7, there you need to write reason. Here you have to prove it by this activity. Next question is, why are solids generally denser than liquids and gases? If you remember, when I was discussing properties of solid, liquid and gases, there I have discussed this term density with you. Do you remember that term? Do you know what is density? Any idea? Yes, so density is mass upon volume. As we know, density is equal to mass upon volume. It means density is directly proportional to mass and inversely proportional to volume. It means if the mass is more, the density is more. And if the volume is more, density is less. Okay? And what is volume? Volume is the space taken up by a substance. That's a volume. So density is inversely proportional to volume. And if you see solids and liquids, for example, take an example of solid, like book. Just keep a book at one place. So that particular portion is taken up by that book. But if you spill water, it covers more area. It has more volume. So it means it occupies more space. Okay. So that's why now what will happen? Density of a substance is given by this formula, mass upon volume. And why solids are more denser? Because in case of solids, if we talk about solid, the arrangement of molecules in solids, what type of arrangement do they have? Yes, they have tightly packed arrangement. And due to tightly packed arrangement, they have large mass and they have very less volume. That's why their density is more. But on the contrary, if we talk about liquids, in liquids, they have more intermolecular spaces because molecules are freely movable. They can easily move, which creates more spaces between them. And as a result, they don't have large mass. They don't have more mass. And they concentrated in small volume. So the density of solids is generally more than that of the liquids and gases due to more mass. Okay? So just remember this density and its relationship with mass and volume. And here, if you're talking about volume, the space occupied by a particular substance is known as its volume. Next question. Here is a boy whose name is Sam. So one day he was just roaming somewhere, and then he parked his bicycle on a sunny day in a parking area. Might be his mood, he was trying to roam around in mall or somewhere else. So he parked his bicycle on a sunny day in a parking area. After few hours, when he came back from the mall or from wherever, from that particular area wherever he has gone, so when he came back, he was amazed to see his bicycle. He saw that the tires of bicycle got burst. And about after this experience, next time he kept less air in his cycle tires and do not inflate them. So what did the tire burst? Why did the tire? It's not type here, it's a tire. I'll just correct it. Why did the tire burst? What do you think? What's the reason behind it? Why did the tire burst when he kept his bicycle in the presence of sunlight? Any guesses? Any idea? Yes, the reason is when he kept his bicycle in on a sunny day outside, due to the heat of the sun, the air which was present in the tire got heated, and therefore it exerts pressure on the walls of the tire. Children, if you remember, I told you when I was discussing that question, that balloon one with you. So I told you that question can be asked in different ways, but the answer is same. If you remember, I have discussed this question, this one. This question number 8. This question number 8 and the question which I am discussing with you right now, they are same. The reason is same. Okay. And so, what will you write? The tire burst because the air inside the tire got heated and therefore it exerted pressure on the walls of the tire. Okay. Then, why is air compressible? Again, why is air compressible? Air is compressible because it has large intermolecular space. If you see this, they have large intermolecular spaces. That's why we can easily compress air. So I hope this question is clear to you. Now just see the other answer of these questions more or less same, but the way of asking question is different. So don't get confused in exam when these type of questions can come. Just relax and find out the answer. Just think the reason behind it. Now, next question is, how is the high compressibility property of gas useful to us? As we all know that gases are highly compressible because of the presence of large intermolecular spaces. So they are highly compressible. And if gases are so compressible, so where we can use that factor of gas or that property of gas in our daily life, how it's useful for us. And the answer for this is LPG, that's liquefied petroleum gas. LPG gas, which we use in our kitchen also, in cylinders. We use cylinders in our home, so that contains LPG, that's liquefied petroleum gas. And this LPG gas is produced from petroleum after fractional distillation of petroleum. And that method, that technique of fractional distillation of petroleum, I'll discuss with you in next chapter. In this is matter around a sphere. So this LPG, it's a fuel we use as a fuel. So it is made up of petroleum gas, and when we compress this, it converts into liquid form. So this is the one use of compressibility property of gas in our daily life. And the next is oxygen cylinders. Oxygen is cylinders generally we use in hospitals. They have highly compressible gas filled in it, because we can easily compress the gas and fill in those cylinders, and we use those oxygen cylinders in hospital for patients. Okay, and the next is CNG, that's compressed natural gas. This compressed natural gas is the produced, or we get this CNG from the nature itself. It's a natural gas. That's why we call it natural gas, because we get this compressed natural gas directly from the nature. Methane is produced, which is compressed and used as fuel in vehicles and sometimes in home also. Nowadays, people are moving to CNG, that's compressed natural gas, because it's environmental friendly, eco-friendly. When it burns, it does not produce any toxic substances. While petrol and diesel, although they are fossil fuels and they are quite very less, they are present in less amount in nature. So that's why we need to preserve them. And when they burn, they produce some toxic gases which pollute our environment. If we are talking about CNG, it's compressed natural gas. When it burns, it does not produce any toxic material, any toxic substance. So that's why we prefer CNG in place of petrol and diesel. Nowadays, people are using this CNG a lot. And another reason is it's pocket friendly also. It's quite less expensive than petrol and diesel. Nowadays, the prices of petrol and diesel are very high. Okay. So I hope this question is clear to you. Now, apart from this, so these are questions which I have discussed with you today. So just go through each and every question and their answers in detail. And I'll give you one suggestion, that when you are writing answers, just practice by writing answers. Don't do it orally. When you write an answer, then you'll be able to know your errors, where you actually are lacking. So go through each and every question thoroughly. Then Another question is, why does ice at 0 degree appear colder than water at same temperature? As I told you when I have discussed one question with you, like write down the different states or phases of matter at different temperature. So there I told you at 0 degree, this water exists in solid as well as in liquid state. But if we touch ice, it is more colder than water. And what's the reason behind it? Because particles in water at 0 degree have more energy as compared to particles in ice at the same temperature. And it's due to the latent heat of fusion. Do you remember that latent heat of fusion topic which I have discussed? It's latent heat of fusion. The amount of heat required to convert 1 kg of solid into liquid at atmospheric pressure. So that's known as latent heat of fusion. I hope this question is clear to you. Now just revise one more time. Okay. First question I have discussed with you today. A balloon when kept in sun burst after some time. Why? Then why do people perspire a lot on a hot humid day? Next is, why is it advisable to use pressure cooker at higher altitudes? The next is, how will you show that solids are completely compressible, liquids are slightly, and gases are highly? The next question which I have discussed in the class today, why are solids generally denser than liquids and gases? And Sam parked his bicycle on a sunny day in a parking area. After a few hours, he saw tires of his cycle got burst. Thereafter, he kept less air in his cycle tires and did not inflate them fully. And on this basis, two questions are there. Why did the tire burst and why is air compressible? The next question is, how is the high compressibility property of gas useful to us? Next is, why does ice at 0 degrees Celsius appear colder than water at same temperature? So I hope students, you have understood all these questions which I have discussed with you today in the class. Just go through each and every question in detail and revise those questions also which I have discussed with you in previous class, because these are very important questions. So in next class, I'll discuss more questions with you. Okay, I'm just waiting for your response. If you have any query, you can ask. Okay, so I'll just end my class here. Thank you everyone. And have a nice day. Just enjoy your day. But please revise it.